Welcome back to the Humble Rising podcast. I am your host, Adivi Vargas, and I have an episode for you that aligns very closely to the episode that you may have just listened to with Alejandra. In this episode, I'm talking with Michelle Niemeyer, who is a speaker, coach, and she is a former attorney. After more than 30 years in law, running her own firm, serving in public office, she teaches high achievers how they can work with their energy instead of against it. She faced a rare autoimmune diagnosis that forced her to slow down. To slow down. I know a lot of you right now may be commuting to work, or maybe you're listening to this while you're doing laundry or doing something in your place, or you're rushing somewhere trying to get something done. And slowing down can feel so hard. And it's because your nervous system and your body are so used to going so hard for so long at all times. And Michelle talks about what she went through, her health crisis, that forced her to slow down and rethink everything about success, productivity, and well being. And that turning point led her to create the art of bending time, which is a framework that helps professionals stay sharp and successful without sacrificing their health or their joy. Now, Michelle helps leaders now and teams prevent burnout, strengthen their focus, and find sustainable ways to thrive. In this conversation, we have some real talk about what burnout actually is and what it is not, why overworking isn't the same as achieving, and how to shift from constant doing to being a little bit more intentional and directing your energy where it's most needed. So in this episode, you will learn how to recognize burnout before it takes over and the subtle signs that a lot of us high performers often miss, like feeling detached or resenting or not feeling connected to what once made you feel good and made you feel satisfied. You'll learn how to make flow your time multiplier, the health, the rest, the mindset shifts that help you do in 2 focused, hyper-focused hours what used to take, hours over 2 days when you're distracted. You'll learn from Michelle how to protect your focus and your hours. Simple ways to reduce distractions and reduce or eliminate time sucks, as we call them, and reclaim some more of your energy and your focus. And you're going to learn how to rebuild your joy. Michelle offers a clarity exercise and a daily wins practice to retrain your mind to notice the good, to fuel and help you self-generate purpose and motivation and reconnect with what makes you feel lit up, what makes you feel really alive. And she's talking my language. If you follow this podcast, Michelle and I are very aligned on that. If you are a lawyer at a firm, especially at a large law firm, or you are a professional in a very high pressure environment, and that's a wide range of environments, I need you to listen carefully to this episode. I need you to pay attention, please, to what Michelle is sharing. Listen twice if you need to. Mark the time or the timestamp where something she is saying deeply resonates with you and you need to process it a little bit more and go back to it. Listen 3 times if you have to. Whatever you have to do. But I'm asking you to pay very close attention, especially if you feel like I'm exhausted, I'm so tired, and you can't recover after just a weekend of rest or a week of rest, where a week of vacation where you're still checking your email isn't enough. You just feel very fatigued. If you feel disconnected and disinterested from the things that you used to feel excited about, or at least content, or maybe not content, but you felt all right about, I need you to pay attention to this episode because there may be something in here that will illuminate something you really need to face and be honest about. With that, here's my conversation with Michelle. Thank you so much, Michelle, for being on the podcast with me today. I am looking forward to our conversation and so thrilled that the listeners to the podcast will get to learn more about the art of bending time.
I'm excited to be here. I can't wait.
So, Michelle, let's start by you walking us through your story, your journey from being a lawyer to what led to your rare autoimmune disease and how that moment inspired and led you to the art of bending time.
Okay. And it's not a linear path. Just, I think this is probably something that most people understand is that these things happen for lots of reasons and over a long time. And so I was not, you hear a lot about lawyers hating their jobs. I was not that lawyer. I loved what I did. I worked really hard. I worked really long hours. I
Mhm.
gave my clients my whole heart and soul and everything I did. And I did that for many, 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 many years. And I hit a point and I didn't know at this point, about 12 years in, I had a partner in my law practice who was not very easy to work with. I'll put it that way.
Mhm.
Um, he was making my life very difficult and he was making my work environment very toxic. And I finally decided to walk out of there with 2 contingency fee clients, no income, $30,000 in the bank, and never didn't have any idea when the things were gonna end that I'd see money, and started my own practice. And I said to my ex-husband at the time, "I don't know if I'm leaving because I don't like being a lawyer or if I don't like working in this environment." Because every other job I'd had before that, I really loved.
Mm.
And I loved the job there too. I just was really getting burned out on the environment and feeling like I was beating my head against a wall.
Yeah.
So I what I realized though was that once I had my own practice, I started doing other things to market the business and those took over my life.
Marketing.
So I got involved with the Chamber of Commerce and then I was on the board of the Chamber of Commerce and I got involved with some political activity and it turned into me being on an elected board for 9 years and running for city commissioner. And so in addition to law, I was doing these things that were exceedingly time consuming. And meanwhile, my marriage ended and I reached this point where all of a sudden after the political campaign, I was kind of like, okay, I really don't like this anymore. I felt resentful about how much I was giving and doing for others. And I
Mm.
think that's something you see with burnout that people don't really realize. It's an absolute symptom of burnout is that people who've been giving and working really hard and doing everything the best they can, they hit a wall and they hit a point where they go, wait a minute, what am I getting back?
Mhm.
And it stops feeling good to them.
Mhm.
And frankly, it turns you inward and it turns you selfish,
Mm.
really, out of self-protection, right? Because you're in a place where you've just been doing so much and you stop feeling that you're getting back. You stop feeling the positive. You
Mhm.
stop feeling the light in what you do.
Mhm.
And so I had hit that point and I ended up taking a job working for someone else for a little while, running a out of state law practice's Miami office. And that ended when I quit because they refused to stop doing some things that were not legal under Florida ethics laws.
Mm.
And that it didn't last very long. And when I left that, all of a sudden I found myself in this place where I was just like really in a deep hole as far as again, I had like really put it out there. I'm like doing this thing and I'm excited. I built a great team. I loved what I was doing in that organization, but outside of my office things were happening that I couldn't control. And so I went back to my solo practice and I started rebuilding. I lost some weight, I worked out every day, I did all the things, right, that you learn you should do. And I was feeling pretty good. I was feeling like, okay, it's coming back. I'm getting back to me. I'm feeling like I'm liking what I'm doing. I'm feeling better about things.
Mhm.
And then one day I go to bed and when I lie down on my back, I literally can't lie down on my back without excruciating pain.
Mm.
And it was like in the area of your kind of mid above your hip on the right side. I thought it was appendicitis. And the first night it happened, I finally went to sleep. The second night it happened, it's 2:30 in the morning. I'm on my phone talking to Doctor Google, right? I had to figure out what's wrong with me. I'm on WebMD. I'm on all these
Yeah.
things, these symptom checker apps. I'm trying to figure out what's going on, and it's pointing towards appendicitis, or, that was the thing that kept coming up.
Mhm.
And all I could think, I'm laying there, it's getting later and later, and I'm like, I'm going to be one of those people who dies of sepsis because they were too proud to go to the hospital when they were in so much pain they couldn't stand it, right? So I get in my car at 3 in the morning and I go to the emergency room, and they did a bunch of things. They did blood testing, they ultimately did an ultrasound. I had restarted running not long before that, and I had had some pain in my mid spine, and I thought maybe it was related to that. That if I had a nerve impingement, maybe that's what was causing it. And in the end of the morning, like, late in the morning when they finally let me go, the doctor said to me, "Listen, I think what you said about the back thing could be what's going on. You have these elevated liver enzymes, though, and that doesn't add up for that. We
Mhm.
think it could be gallstones, but the ultrasound doesn't show us anything." So it's like, "Oh, okay." And
What
she
is
said,
it?
and so she's saying gallstones. Now, I am like, I hate doctors. I mean, I have friends who are doctors. I shouldn't say that, but the medical system is not a place I like to be.
Yeah.
So I made the decision that I could deal with gallstones by eating better, all the lifestyle things. And I
Yes.
did that. And I started that after about a month. I became a Beachbody coach.
Mm.
And I did that after seeing my assistant, who was way younger than me, but at the same time, I mean, it was just monumental. She ran 2 marathons 2 weeks apart, full marathons.
Oh, that's
And I saw her on mile 20 of the Miami Marathon, and she was loping along like a little deer, and I'm like, "How? What in the world is going on with this woman?" Right? And I talked to her about it, and she's like, "Oh, it's because 'cause I'm cross-training with the Beachbody workouts." So I was like, "Okay, I'll do that." And their coaching program gave me access to personal development, which I'd never had before. As
Mm.
as a lawyer, you often don't get this stuff, so it was really my first exposure to that. And it also got me into this rhythm of I was following a program, I'm eating right, I'm exercising, I'm watching my sleep, I'm doing all that health stuff, thinking everything is great. At my high school weight, feeling better physically than I'd ever felt. And a year later, I go to the doctor with a UTI, and he comes back and he says, "I want to do some blood testing just because you haven't been here for a checkup in a while." And he comes back and he says, "You know those elevated liver enzymes from your hospital visit?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "They're twice as high now as they were a year ago."
Mm.
So I was like, whoa, okay. So I went to a doctor. Turns out I have something called primary biliary cholangitis, which is it's an autoimmune disease that affects the bile ducts in your liver. So
Mm.
there are all these microscopic bile ducts, and they get attacked and they die. And so that's what really triggered me at that point. I'm looking again, I go back to Google. Worst thing you can ever do with anything medical, I think, is go to Google.
Yes.
But I went back to Google and I learned that according to Google, people with this disease can die or need a transplant within 10 years. I'm happy to say I was diagnosed 10 years ago. And as you can see, I'm not dead yet.
Yeah.
So, you know, I dove into a deep hole of studying holistic medicine, functional medicine, trying to find out what do I do for an autoimmune disease, because the medical world has a tendency to say if we can't throw prednisone at it and knock down the inflammation and make you feel better, we can't help you.
Mhm.
And there is one drug that with PBC you can take that is very helpful. There's a couple new ones that have come out since then. I'm lucky to be part of the 60% that works for.
Okay.
But I've also done a whole lot of lifestyle change. And in doing the lifestyle change, I've been able to reverse the damage to my liver where I was told it should stay the same. If we
Mhm.
can keep it in remission and it stays the same, we consider that success. And we're you're like, that's awesome. You'll live a normal life. But I've actually, in the scans, it's gone backwards.
Mm.
So, it's awesome. And so that's what got me into this. Once I did that, I started looking at the lawyer lifestyle, and I had always taught continuing education for other lawyers in my substantive field of insurance law.
Mhm.
But I talked to somebody from one of these companies that sells the CLEs at one point, and I said, "Hey, do you guys have wellness programming? Because there's all this lip service about wellness in the law world, but there's also all these burned out lawyers and people who are literally committing suicide and have major addiction issues and all kinds of problems."
Yep.
So I did 2 programs that that company still bundles with their stuff 5 years later, 6 years later, that are continuing education for lawyers, and I love doing that. It was, like, 2019 I did that, and I was still practicing law full time and, thinking about, do I do something with coaching or whatever, and in, like, really during COVID, I came up with the art of bending time,
Mm.
but I was still working in litigation.
Okay.
And I did some beta testing. I worked with some people. I'm out there now working with it. My law practice ended a year ago, but until my law practice ended, I didn't get into this full time because I felt like I couldn't. It was hard to just to do both. I
Yes.
don't know if this is for me. Coaching Michelle is in a completely different headspace and emotional space than litigator Michelle. And it's really hard to be both those people and switch back and forth.
Yes.
It's like, if you're bilingual, are you bilingual?
Yes.
Okay. Do you find that you have a different personality in Spanish and in English?
Sometimes, not always, but sometimes. And sometimes there's certain ways you express yourself in one language that you actually can't in the other. Like it's
Right.
really challenging.
Yeah, and I had an interesting experience and I'm gonna go off course here because this is on this topic and it's fascinating.
Yes.
Um, I'm in the leadership mastery program for Tony Robbins programs. And I was part of a leadership team in Date with Destiny in December.
Oh, amazing.
And they asked us if anybody spoke foreign languages. They had certain languages that there were going to be people on translation, that they needed to have team members on the virtual team. They needed people who spoke that language. And I speak Spanish fluently. So I was asked to be on the Spanish team.
Oh, amazing.
And I had done this program before in English. And when I did an exercise in Spanish that should have brought up some serious emotion for me, it was like I was separated in a different room from it and it didn't impact me at all.
Mm.
And I think I really was because it was almost like that. Like my experiences where I was speaking Spanish all the time, we're living in Spain with a family. It wasn't the same experience as living in my home with my parents here in the United States. Right.
Mm.
So I think I really like there was something about those associations were just like distanced a bit.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting. Um, but anyway, that I found was really interesting. And but when I did that and I've done all these things, I decided I wanted to do something with coaching and teaching and what could I put out there that helps people.
Mhm.
And I started thinking about who was I at the time when I didn't really know I was burned out yet, but I knew something was starting to be wrong.
Mm.
And when I looked at that, I realized that what I thought was wrong was time management problems.
Mhm.
So I decided to create a course that focused on time management because I was seeing in a lot of people who are burned out They think they're spinning. They think they're spinning their wheels. They think they're disorganized. They think they're unable to get stuff done. And that's true to some degree. But it's
Mhm.
true because they're burned out, not because they don't have those skills. So my course has those skills in it, but the real skills are the skills to get yourself back into your body, into your normal reality, feeling good and seeing the positive again.
Mm. I love that. I love the getting back into your body. I don't think, especially as lawyers, there's there really is no real emphasis on how does my body feel? How do I check in with myself? Because you're trained to just push through and go at all costs,
Yeah.
to do
And you are,
everything
for
at
sure,
all costs. Yeah.
for sure. And you're trying to stifle those emotional feelings because you have to, because you can't go out there and what I'm embarrassed. In my first jury trial, I cried and the judge cried. We
Mm.
had to and we had to have a break, but it happened when my client's dad cried on the stand. He broke down crying on the stand and everybody lost it. But it was like the judge came back and apologized because it was so improper and all this, and it was like, honestly, we're all human here, right?
Yeah.
And you're trained to shut off those feelings, and when you do that, you're more prone, I think, to burnout.
Yes, because 'cause you're suppressing so much.
Right.
At some point, something's gonna give, and it typically is you,
Yeah.
right?
It's part of your body or it's part of your mind or it's yeah, exactly.
So, tell me more about, if someone's listening to this and they're thinking to themselves, I'm not sure, like, am I on the verge of burnout, or am I burnt out? Or maybe it's just a hard week, or for many people, it's I'm having a hard 6 months or year.
Mhm.
The grind has been 2 years. So what are some of the signs or symptoms or signals, that you can share with people to look out for, that they should pay attention to, so they can know a little bit more about, "Hey, I think this is burnout," or maybe
Right.
it's not.
Yeah, I think one of them is not taking pleasure in things that you used to take pleasure in,
Yeah.
which is, similar to depression,
Mhm.
but really in a way burnout is kind of a sense of depression.
Yes.
It's a sense of you're just going too hard too long. You feel like you're not getting anywhere. So, you start feeling like a hamster on a wheel, right?
Yeah.
And the other is becoming detached. One thing you see a lot of, and if you work with teams in an office, it's something to really look out for, is if you have people in your office who used to be very engaged, they used to be social, they used to be out there, so to speak. And now all of a sudden they're withdrawn, hiding behind their doors in their offices by themselves.
Mhm.
Often that signals something's going on.
Mm.
And people a lot of times don't want to ask, they don't want to intrude. But, really, if we care about somebody, we should be asking, are you okay?
Yes.
And, they may or may not think they're okay because that's the one thing about burnout. I think for a lot of people, it really is like being like a lobster being cooked in a pot of boiling water. You
Mhm.
don't know you're burned out and you feel like you're okay and you tell everybody you're fine and you think it's just a bad day or a hard week or a hard project or a bad interaction with somebody that day or whatever. But if you add it up, what you start seeing is you stop being capable of feeling the wins and
Mhm.
feeling the positive stuff and the little things. And in my experience, and I think this is really important, learning to see and appreciate those little wins and those positive interactions and those joyful moments is the key. If you can start shifting your mindset so that you're seeing those things first, you're not going to get burned out
Mm.
because you'll stop, I mean, take a moment to smell the roses. When you take that moment and you see the beauty in the picture. I was when I sat down and looked, I have to tell you, that picture behind you is
Ah,
gorgeous.
oh, thank you.
And but that's the kind of thing that I saw that as soon as I looked at you and looked at your the
Mhm.
screen, and it's something that matters because when you see the positive, you see the beautiful, you see an act of kindness, you give an act of kindness, and you see the response to it.
Mhm.
That connection with other people can really matter a lot. Just those little moments. If you have a lot of those little moments, they do a lot. If you consider like a bank account of positive moments, having a lot of little positive moments is a lot bigger deal than having one big win every 6 months.
Yes. How do you these so many people who listen to the podcast and who reach out will say, "But how do I start doing that, Michelle? Like, how do I start doing that?" Like, I understand intellectually,
Right,
magically why this is important. I understand celebrating the wins and noticing and appreciating and we know the gratitude practice. I understand why that's important. How do I start? Because I'm really tired, I'm really busy. I a lot my team depends on me. I'm getting it from above, I'm getting it from below, on the side, my family.
right.
So where do they start?
I find that with people that I'm working with who have that problem of they're having trouble finding that, journaling is crucial.
Mm,
Taking a moment in some part of your day or even taking a moment, sometimes this is nice if dictate into your phone memo.
yes. I love
The
that.
minute you see something cool or you see something nice or you've had a good feeling or you accomplish something that you've been trying for a while and you hadn't been able to do before. Whatever that thing is, if you make it a habit of starting to go, just put a sentence on your phone memo
Mhm.
and make sure that you log like 5 or 6 things a day
Mm,
just to have the practice and start working like getting that, like making yourself look for that. Because
yeah,
these things happen all the time. But if we stop looking for them, we start focusing on the negative things, we start focusing on the demands on us, we start focusing on you know, the bad result that happened today or I didn't have X, Y, or Z that I needed, and so I couldn't finish or whatever that stressor is.
Mhm.
If you focus on that, that's what you're gonna get. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And, so if you and, you learn to be more resourceful, you learn to be more resilient when your focus is on the positive.
Yes. And what you focus on, I know there's a much more eloquent saying, but what you focus on expands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And like
the other thing is, there's something called the reticular activating system. Do you know about
yes.
that?
Yes.
So when you are looking for something, and the classic exercise that you see is like looking around a room for everything blue.
Mhm.
And you look for everything blue. And at the end of that, I might ask you to tell me all the blue things you saw, and then I'll ask you to tell me what you saw that was brown. And you're not gonna be able to name something that was brown because you were only looking for blue things,
Right, and you'll find it.
and you'll find the blue things. You're gonna find all the blue things because that's what you were looking for.
Yes.
And then you look around and you realize, "Oh my god, well, the bookshelf behind Michelle is brown, and there's brown in her shirt, and there's" um, but you're not thinking about that.
Right.
And we do that we have so much coming into our brains all the time every day. And so we do filter out like a vast majority of what comes into our senses gets filtered out.
Yes.
And the things that don't get filtered out are the things we're looking for. So if
Yes.
we're looking for something negative, if we're looking for pain when we go to the gym, if we're looking for not feeling well, we're going to find it. Right?
Mhm.
It's a you're gonna find it. If you're looking for something beautiful when you walk out the door in the morning, and you're looking for, a smile on the face of the person you work with when you bring them a cup of coffee just to be nice, whatever it is, you're gonna feel differently.
Mhm. It's that focus on it's almost like just taking a minute to just readjust what you're looking for, and it's a
Yeah.
retraining because your suggestion of even every single day doing the voice memo of 5 to 6 things, as lawyers and anyone who's good at their craft, like anyone who's a professional who or doing any kind of job, you're good at it the more you do it. And this is the same thing, except this is more, I would say, more challenging because you have to keep this practice and do the reps to really get good at it or to feel that, I would say, feel the benefit of it. And I find what a lot of people find challenging is that there is no social, external, career, professional reward for doing it, right?
Right.
It just has to be intrinsically rewarding to you because you stay healthy, you have the mind, body, spirit connection. Like, I think that that's a challenge for many people is, but I have so many other things to do that I get rewarded for doing. And if I'm doing this, is I get it's important, but it's hard because no one is there to tell me, good job, you've done it.
Right.
I mean, a coach will, and there are people who will if you are in that kind of incubator. But for
Mhm.
a lot of people, they get stuck there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, will help me, but like I have to do it so much and I'm not being rewarded for that. And
Well,
it's
and the important
engagement.
thing, and here's a little reward to think about. If you work in a especially if you work in a flow state kind of profession.
Mm,
And law is if you're into anything where you're writing a lot, you're researching, you're in a flow state profession. If you're not in flow state, you're not efficient, right? You're going to take twice as long to get things done as you would otherwise.
mhm,
So one of the things that's really important in that kind of a profession is that you're in a place where first of all you can sustain that flow longer. Being physically healthy is going to give you that. It's
absolutely.
going to get you it's going to keep your brain in top shape. You're not gonna have memory issues. I mean, there are people who I had when I was developing this autoimmune disease, I had crazy, crazy memory fog things happening that scared the hell out of me. I thought I was gonna have to go to a doctor and be told I had early Alzheimer's, and I was in my 30s. Like, I actually one time took a phone call, and this man was talking like he talked to me, I'm like I looked in my notes. I had a computer system I was using where the notes for every call went, like, right in as soon as I was typing in notes as I was talking. I had 5 pages of notes from talking to a man who I didn't remember talking to.
Oh, wow.
And I know now that's an early sign of autoimmune problems, but, God forbid. I mean, thankfully, that was the worst it got, and when I realized it and I knew that stress can associate with memory issues, I started taking really strong action to deal with stress because I thought that's what the problem was. It wasn't it was years later that I was diagnosed, but I'm sure it was starting, back then.
Yes. Yes.
And, but I think that one thing is people don't realize how important that capability to maintain a flow state is,
Yes.
and this is part of the concept of bending time, okay? If you can, by staying healthy, eating well, maintaining your practices that help you reduce stress, if because you do those things, you can maintain a flow state for 2 or 3 hours and get and bang something out that might have taken you 2 days otherwise, you just spent time,
Yes. Yes.
okay? That's part of it. That's part of it, and there's other parts of it too, but there's all these different things you can do that my philosophy is that the time you're spending, everybody has the same amount of time, right? We all have this 24 hours. If you look at time as a linear thing, we all have the same amount. Yet some people are incredibly successful and some people never accomplish anything in their lives,
Mm,
right? Why is that? They all have the same length of day.
mhm,
And, you know, okay, so one person's going to say, well, I'm too busy. I'm a mom and I've got kids. Well, lots of people are moms and have kids, right? And lots of people are involved in X, Y, or Z that takes time. Lots of people have a full-time job and still work at home. Or they have a side hustle and they're doing 2 full-time jobs. It's but the impact of the time that you're using is what really matters.
mm,
And there are a lot of things you can do to improve that impact, including those healthy practices.
mm. Yeah, it's like how you're actually maximizing your time and what are you doing to actually optimize the time that you have?
Exactly, and, like, some other things you can do are, for instance, making sure you've built a team around you and maximize not just like people to do you see things a lot of time management, it's going to tell you to delegate. Well, yeah, of course. If you have an assistant, you should be delegating assistant work to your assistant. If you are not the marketing person and you have a marketing person in your business, you shouldn't be trying to do all the marketing, although it might make sense for you to do some marketing and to get some exposure, right?
Mm,
Because it's important that you have that. Um so, one of the things though is what if you get a mentor who can give you shortcuts to
mm,
making your career faster and more successful?
mhm,
And if you do that, you get that mentor and they go, "Oh, I can introduce you to this person." And that person has more wisdom or more connection that helps get you to a point faster. Or somebody in your personal side of your goals.
mhm,
Um, Maybe you have an intention. I like to use this example because I think it's kind of a cool one. Let's say that you have always wanted to learn to fly a plane
mm,
and you have a perception. Nobody in your family's ever been a pilot. You don't know how that works. You have a perception that that's going to be tens of thousands of dollars in an enormous amount of time and you just can't afford that, right? If you were to go outside of your sources of information and start talking to some people who are small plane pilots, you may find out that there's a club in your community that owns planes
mm,
and they may have training opportunities. And all of a sudden, the cost of that could be a fraction of what you thought it would be.
mhm.
Same for things like I race sailboats. People have an idea that, oh, it's a yacht club, it's private, I can't go in those gates, right? Everybody who races sailboats is desperate for crew all the time.
Like,
I'm
people
not
just go out
joking.
and try, yeah, so
I'm
people
not joking. They're desperate for crew all the time. It's hard to put 10 or 12 people on a big racing boat and have like those people willing to give up time on their weekends and
yeah,
all that. And sometimes multiple day races that take you out to islands in the middle of the ocean or whatever. So, you know, those people need crew. And the fact is that you don't have to spend money to be a sailor. You have to just freaking show up.
yeah,
And say, "Hey, I wanna learn to sail. Can somebody take me on as crew and teach me?" You wouldn't believe how fast somebody's gonna be like, "Oh, yeah, we'd love to have you. Come next Saturday at 10 o'clock."
yes.
So,
But you know what hap you know what happens though is the well, what I've seen and observed, is the hesitation to, like, put yourself out there, right?
oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. And especially in these places where, like, with yacht clubs, oh, it's gated and it's private and you have to be a member and people feel afraid of that, right?
Mhm.
But the fact is once you're in those gates, mostly the people there are really nice and they need help. And you don't
No,
have to be a member to be on a crew. Typically, they can invite anybody they want to
you just
sail
have to
with
be
them.
willing, just
Yeah.
willing, able to learn and do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the kind of thing that if you just keep it all to yourself, and this is a place where I tell people not to erect a wall and try to have work-life balance.
Yes, yes.
I truly believe work-life balance is BS,
Yeah.
and it's a myth. So, we are whole people.
Mhm.
And if I'm going to have a friend who understands me and has a true relationship with me,
Mm.
that person needs to understand about things at work and about things at home,
Mhm.
right? Whether they're a work friend or a home friend,
Yeah.
they're not really my friend if they don't know me. And I'm never going to be a happy whole human being if I can't be myself in my whole life.
Mhm.
So there are aspects of me that are different at work than they are at home and whatever. But I think if you're trying to like live multiple lives, like multiple personalities, or like you're lobotomized, like in the TV show Severance, it's not like it's just not possible to be like that and to be happy and to feel like you're doing what you need to do in your life, like, as a whole.
Yeah. And to feel like you are and to feel like I dedicate 50%, 50%, like, to each that's not what happens in day-to-day life, that
It's
things
not
well,
possible.
right.
And
'Cause it
so it always sets you up to feel like you're failing.
Mhm.
And that's where burnout comes in.
Yeah.
People feel burned out because they feel like they're overdoing and they feel like they're failing on every front, right? No matter what they do, they can't climb the hill.
Yep.
And if they can, then they're in a good place. But what happens a lot of times is, you've got this idea, oh, I couldn't get home at 6 o'clock, so I'm a bad mom.
Mhm.
Or I had to get home for my kid. So I had to miss the meeting and now I'm like not good at my job or I'm not
Yeah.
fully participating or whatever. But the other thing is, let's face it, if I bring my personal, let's use the kid example. If I bring my personal into work and I bring my work into my personal life and my work friends know my kid and they've had maybe we've gone to the beach together or we've done some things together outside of the office and we've gotten to be friends on a human level and I have to leave work because my kid is sick and the nurse called. My friend at work is not going to crucify me for they'll cover for me, right? They're much more likely to be human
Mhm.
in the work environment
Yes.
and vice versa.
Yes. Wait, Michelle, so speaking of the work environment, because I I wanna make sure that our listeners understand that, we operate within, like, systems, right? And
Mhm.
we're not we're not separate from the workplace environment that we function in. So we a lot of times we talk about burnout as like a personal individual issue, but for the listeners, we are talking about it also in the context of work. So, Michelle, what is your view on the responsibility that our workplaces and environments have in creating or sustaining or contributing to burnout, and how do you see that intersect with the work that we do as individuals?
I think that's really important. Um, First of all, workplaces I do believe are trying, but drawing these lines, it doesn't make sense. Now, does that mean that you should have to be on call at work 40 hours a day? No.
Mhm.
Okay. This idea, I'm very lucky that I started practicing law before everybody had a cell phone.
Yes. Yeah.
And I never had a boss who had an attitude of, I need to be able to reach you anytime I try to reach you day or night, no matter what.
Yeah. That's happening now. I mean, that
It
happens.
is happening now, and it's completely unreasonable.
Mhm.
And, from that perspective, I think workplaces need to be reasonable about a couple of things. One of the things, and I see this a lot in the legal world, is that law firms are set up as a machine to burn out junior associates.
Mhm.
They may not admit it, but it's an economic thing for them that they pay these young people a ton of money.
Yes.
And when you get paid a ton of money coming out of school, there's an expectation tied to that ton of money. I mean,
Yes.
one thing you can do as a person is say, I'm not taking the ton of money.
Yeah.
I'm, um, I want to have a full life and I don't want to be expected to work 90 hours a week and not have outside contacts and etc.
Mhm.
They expect that a certain percentage of the people are gonna burn out and quit, and they're gonna make enough money on them really with the high salaries because they're working crazy hours. So,
Yep.
that's part of
Particularly.
it.
Yep.
They're shooting themselves in the foot on a long-term basis, though, and this is someplace that I tend to look at businesses and say, "Do they really care?" I don't know. They care about money,
Mhm. Making money.
and in the long term, if you burn out your workforce and you don't develop rainmakers, you're gonna fail in the long term.
Yeah.
So, from that perspective, let's talk about the greed perspective, right? If you are purely greedy and you wanna have a successful business, yeah, okay, you could consider part of your associate workforce to be just people who are gonna burn out, and that's okay in your mind.
Mm,
But those people are gonna go other places, first of all, and that reputation can affect you.
absolutely.
It can affect your ability to recruit good people down the road. But you're also potentially missing out on people who could become real connectors and rainmakers in your community and in your industry.
Mhm.
And if you lose those people before they get a chance to even do that, because let's face it, in a lot of jobs, you do production work first and then you do networking and rainmaking, right? So if they burn you out and throw you out before you get to produce, they're losing a potentially good business earner
Mhm.
and manager and mentor and all those things that help create a really good cohesive workforce. So I think there's a short term mindset about cash flow that loses the concept of the longer term longevity and success that gives real growth
Mhm.
and sustainable growth. And part of sustainable growth is having a workforce that you retain.
And, to this point of, sustainability, there are some so working with women in different environments, law firms versus just fast-paced, high-pressure corporate environments, and then women in other environments that aren't as high pressure and fast-paced. What I've seen is that there is some level if you're gonna stay at a place like a law firm, like a big law firm, there's some level of acceptance you have to have that this is the system.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
the culture.
I mean, it's crazy. It's not crazy. I mean, one day maybe things will change, but I practiced law for 33 years and they didn't change in 33 years. So are they really going
Yeah.
to change? The billable hour should have been dead years ago. It
Yes.
still exists.
Yes, and for those who are listening, you bill Michelle, I'm sure this is true for when you were practicing, like, every 6 minutes, you're billing your time. And so we bill in point 1, point 2, point 3. And if you, God forbid, you weren't tracking your time one day, you have to go back and track it because you really only get credit for the hours you bill. So if you go to work at 8 a.m. and you leave at 7 p.m., that's not billable hours. They don't all count. You only get whatever you're billing to a client.
Right.
So, I think people sometimes they don't understand why law firms it can be so challenging. It's not just that you're doing work, it's that you have to track your work in every 6-minute increments, and then making sure that work is billable to an actual client, and on top of that, especially if you're more junior, you tend to second guess how much time you spend on things, so you often will decrease the amount of time that you bill
Right.
because you
Which is
don't
the
want
worst thing you can do because a partner can cut your time, but you really don't want to be cutting your own.
That's
But
right.
the thing is with all of that, again, we talked about having that focus and that flow
Yes.
state capacity, right?
Mm.
If you're in that situation and you're the lawyer who can't stay focused, who's batting between this and that and the other, who's going to the break room and getting a coffee or whatever you're doing because you can't focus, you're there for 11 hours to do 8 hours worth of work reasonably.
Mhm.
But if you're really focused and you have good flow, you might be there for 9 hours to do 8 hours of work.
Yeah.
And how cool is that, right? Like, that's such a big difference, and that difference could come from you doing things like actually working out once a day,
Yes, yes.
getting enough sleep at night, or, you know, doing other things that make you more productive. I teach people how to do things about their own what I call time sucks,
Mhm.
both internal time sucks, things like self-soothing things, like picking up your phone and scrolling,
Yeah.
start feeling uncomfortable or bored.
Yes.
How much it I read a study once that said that for every interruption, it takes 15 minutes to get back on task.
Yes. Yes.
Think about it. That's point 3,
Yeah. Good stuff.
right? That's a
Yeah.
point
I
3.
can't touch it now. It adds up because you know you're not checking it once. It's over and over and over.
Exactly. And so you really need to be able to eliminate distractions. And some of them are from you, some of them are things like I put blinds in my apartment where there were no blinds before because the sun was coming in front of my home office desk and I was getting blinded at 2 o'clock in the afternoon every day.
Mm,
And I finally was like, I can't do this. And I put in these great blinds and it makes my life so much better. Because what I was doing before was carrying my laptop into my den,
just
which
yes.
would turn into, oh, I think I'll just turn on Netflix while I eat my lunch. And the next thing I know, I'm wasting an hour, right?
Yes, yes. Yes, yes. So, Michelle, I wanna talk more about your view on how do we reclaim joy? And
Right.
I want our listeners to know, what does reclaiming joy look like for you, and how do you help others find it again in the midst of all the things we've been talking about, everything we
Right.
juggle and everything that we deal with?
Right. I find I know this worked for me, and I find with a lot of people I talk to, most of us can remember times, especially when we were younger. Sometimes it's easier to dissociate it from your current state
Yeah.
and to say, okay, I do a meditation kind of thing with people where I work them through this clarity exercise. And we you go through an imagination exercise where you think about, okay, think about a time, for instance, when you were really excited about something. And
Mhm.
what was that thing you were really excited about? Can you kind of put yourself in your body at that time? What did you feel like? What was it that you were excited about? Who was around you? What was it about that moment that made it so exciting? Was it the smiles on people's faces? Was it the crowd cheering when you won your first swim meet? Was it, you know, so you go to a level of detail about how you felt and what it was that made you feel that. And where did you feel it in your body and how did it make you feel? And remember that. And then you think about, okay, so you start building up those examples. Think about times you were very proud about something, times you felt a really good sense of accomplishment, times when you had a really good connection with people, whatever it is that made you feel good and made you feel lit up. And then there's going to be a thread. You'll start seeing a thread. You'll start seeing similarities in those events. Maybe you're super connected with nature and you're finding you're not even with other people. You're like hiking when you're doing these things, or um, I found one of my moments that came to mind with me was I had a small sailboat at my family's house on Cape Cod when I was a kid and sailing in like big waves and the water was splashing and the sun was shining and I could feel that. And that
Mm,
felt amazing to me, right? And one of the things I realized is I'm really highly kinesthetic.
mm,
So for me, if I'm not moving my body in some way every day, I start to die a little inside. And I don't know what's happening to me. And as a lawyer, of course, you could very easily slip into never moving your body. You go from sitting on the couch at home, going to bed, sleeping at night, going to the office, sitting at a desk all day and rinse and repeat, right? So that was something for me that was a big deal. Was really like reawakening that physical side of me that had been somewhat smothered over time.
yes.
Even when I was doing gym workouts, it just wasn't the same. I needed to get out and just move my body more.
Yes. Yes.
So that's what I recommend is that people start to like reconnect with those feelings, figure out what they are, figure out if there's some commonality between them, and then get more of that. Like find a way to get more of that. If it's music, if it's art, if it's whatever it is that makes you feel good, you
Mhm.
need to make a point of putting that into your day, whether it's during work or in your personal life.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, make it a priority. Yes. Yes. All right, Michelle, as we wrap up, I wanna know, what are you most excited about as you look to the rest of 2025?
I am planning on publishing a book by the end of the year. So
What's it
that's what
what's it
I'm most
called?
excited about. And I'm looking at your book going, bummer.
Thank you.
Yeah. So The Art of Bending Time is becoming a book to make it accessible to more people
I
because it's
love
been I speak on the topic. I have a coaching program that takes 12 weeks that walks people through a process. And the book is going to give people a more accessible way to get to that
Oh,
information.
I love that. I love that. Michelle, where can people find you if they want to work with you? They want to follow you so they know more about the book. Where can they find you?
Okay. Best way to find me is to join the community that I have online, and it's free.
Okay.
It has some tools, including a downloadable version of that clarity exercise
Mm-hmm.
and some journal prompts for it. Um, what they need to do is just text the word clarity to 33777.
Awesome.
So if you're watching this right now, pull out your phone
And text.
and text clarity to 33777. It'll just ask for your name and your email, and it'll put you into this community where when I have, like, I'm doing a little mastermind actually on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, I do those occasionally. So like that one's going to be, it's called a halftime locker room chat. It's about how to make the best of the second half of 2025.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that. Okay, so and I will throw the links in the show notes so people will have them as well. And I'll add the clarity and text, I'll add the number. So if you're listening and you didn't catch that, don't worry about it. I'll throw it in the show notes so everyone will have the link and they can find you. Michelle,
Awesome.
thank you so much for this
Thank you.
conversation. I look forward to reading your book when it comes out. So I'm really excited about that. And congratulations.
Well, thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.